So Crocs makes more than 30 million shoes a year. True or false? True. Makes more than 40 million pairs of shoes a year. True. Crocs actually makes 60 million pairs of shoes a year and is the 8th largest footwear manufacturer in the world. No one in Colorado knows this, which is why I don't live in Boulder. I live in Denver, so I don't have to deal with that when the stock goes up or down. If you build 60 million pairs of shoes and you've invented this whole molding technology, which Crocs invented this molding technology, other people like Nike are going to come in right behind it. And a lot of the flip-flops and a lot of the footwear products that you do see today that are molded, Adidas and Nike build similar kinds of products with technology that they couldn't. Croc or not? Crocs golf shoes. We started this 3 years ago with Hank Haney, who was Tiger Woods' golf coach for a number of years. All the good things that ever happened to Tiger, Hank did, according to Hank. At least that's the part I listened to when he's telling me this over dinner for about the 10th time. This is our third-year generation perimeter spiking on the shoes, very comfortable to wear. Croc or not? Boy, you guys will be doing terrible. This is a women's line of flats that we started a year ago, which is a very casual upper on that molded bottom. Croc or not? See? Nope, it's Tom's. Tom's has to figure out what they're going to do for women because everybody's worn that espadrille that says, I care, and if you wear this shoe, you don't care, right? So how are you going to continue to wear Tom's and kind of support what he does? And it's a great brand. But when you change the direction so much, it's hard to do that. Croc or not? This is what will come out in the fall of 14. This is what we call Crocs Cow. So it is actually made with material, feels just like, if we blindfold you, feels just like leather, is not leather at all. And so how do you think about sustainability? How do you think about the environment? As a Boulder-based company, there's a lot of people that think about how we are an environmentally friendly company. We just issued our second sustainability report, which is all about innovation, how you continue to innovate as a company. So this will come out in the fall. Very similar to a Sperry-type boating shoe, but the material is all our own material. Crocs or not? No. Croc or not? Third generation women's A-Lee boot that will come out for fall. Croc or not? So this is new for spring, summer this year. The actual sole flexes. So if I could, I didn't bring one, or Patrick didn't bring one, the base of this actually has a wire that runs through it, and you can twist the sole. Super comfortable. What's the biggest thing we complain about, or what do footwear companies are concerned about? It's fit. If you buy shoes, what do you return them for? Fit. The upper stretches and the base stretches. So if you're a 10.5 and you buy the shoe and you're a little bit wide or you're a little bit longer than a 10.5, you don't really have much of a problem. And we test these. I'm a 10.5. I wear a 9, and I can wear it because the base stretches and the upper material stretches. I tell you this because as companies go, there's always a struggle. And for us, the question was, are you a product company? Are you a marketing company? Or are you a supply chain type of company? What is it that you as an innovator, as an entrepreneur want to be? And a lot of times we got kind of pushed aside in the early days and said, well, they make this rubber clog, and they're kind of a supply chain company. They're more focused on how they deliver products. To go from zero to building 45 million pairs of shoes in the first 3 years cost me a lot of hair, and what's left is gray, because it's not easy. It's not easy to ramp up something that quickly. And this kind of addresses that issue. And it also allows us as a company to just use innovation from a product standpoint to define who we are. Now, how do we get our consumers to catch up with us? Because is there anything there that you would buy? Do you feel like there's something out there that you've seen that you would potentially purchase? Okay, so we started this off by saying not very many of you had Crocs. How do we get you to convert to buying Crocs? Because once you wear them, And I wore some nice shoes this morning. I went to a different meeting this morning. I had to wear regular shoes. Wow, it's painful. You know, once you wear Crocs shoes for a while, super lightweight, super comfortable to wear. So our mission statement really is focused on bringing profound comfort, fun, color, and innovation to the world's feet. You can't believe how much arguing went on to get to this point. I once made the mistake of saying, I don't really believe in mission statements because no one ever remembers it, and that started an even bigger fight. So I've never forgotten this one over time. We do think it is about comfort and fun, and you see everybody pitches comfort today from a footwear standpoint. But we think we own color and innovation, and I think what you can see in the products that I showed you, innovation is really key. And when you look at this, how does innovation affect your company, or how do you think about innovation? We never stop thinking about it. Whether it's your experience on our website, we're constantly playing with how do we interface with you, and do you like it, and what kind of feedback do you give us? We use 4C. We get about 45,000 inputs every quarter from customers that either bought our products online or in our stores that gave us feedback, and we take it seriously because we think that either validates what we're innovating or that tells us that's not really the right solution to the problem. So I'm going to cover a few things with you tonight. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm going to show you how we think about product timeline from the early days when I first joined in 2004. And we had 9 products. When we went public in February of 2006, we were and still are the largest IPO in the footwear category in the history of the NASDAQ. Hard to believe. Bigger than 9 West. Who was the biggest one before us? 9 West. And so this was a pretty big success story. In Boulder, 87 millionaires were created that day. If you put $25,000 into Crocs in 2002, 3, or 4, it was worth $1 million that 3 or 4 years later. So as innovators, you're starting this company, you're probably starting off with better ideas than a rubber clog, right? In 17 beautiful colors, too. And that's kind of what it started with. So I'll just share with you a little bit on our product strategy and the DNA of that. And then I'm going to talk to you about some things that are important to me and the things that when I moved back from Singapore in 2010, I lived in Singapore the second time with my family from 2000 to 2010. And I came back, I inherited what I would consider a mess. This was a company that had gone through the ups and the downs of the stock market. When we went public, in 18 months we went from 21 to $150. If you bought it along that way and sold it, talk to me afterwards. If you had anything to do with the next 12 months where it went from $150 to $1.60, I don't want to talk to you. I've already heard it all. And so in that, one of the things that we learned is how to survive. That was a near-death experience for the company. We ran out of cash. We almost put this thing nose down. And today, the company is almost $1.3 billion in sales. And so how do we change that? And it all starts with, I think, we're going to talk a little bit about 5 Ps and 3 Cs, which are all things that I worked hard at over the last 4 years before I retired 8 days ago. So I am very happy. Thank you. Thanks. That's why I'm so well rested and easy tonight. You know, I don't have the stress of a day job today. Okay. So this is what innovation might look like in your company. It's maybe a different type of roadmap, but when we first look back at 2002 to 2004, when we went public, we had 25 styles of shoes, and that year we did a little over $300 million. All in a matter of 2002 to 2006. And from that, you think about what the DNA of your company is. And this is something that's really easy to get away from. What is the DNA of what you're developing? What is the DNA of your brand, of what you're thinking? And we argued a lot about whether the company could ever evolve. Is there a pointer in here? Yeah, so we talk about this stage right here. This is all molded product. There's a little bit of fuzz in a product that we brought out in 2006, 2007. But what happens is we said the DNA of the product is really what I said before. It was fun, it was colorful, it was lightweight. was super comfortable. So how do we add that fourth word? How do we add innovation and then be able to start to build many different other styles of products? Today we offer over 400 different styles of products throughout the course of a year. And you can find almost anything on here, from women's flats to casual kind of ankle boots to wedges and heels. Yes, we even did a heel back in the early days. We actually did a heel back in 2007 that proved to us that we could extend the brand, but that the DNA would carry us to that point. This is, if you had our chief product officer here, this is something that we talk a lot about and he thinks about, is across this spectrum, we're certainly, whoops, sorry, wow. That'll teach me to hit the wrong button. So it said that we would start with this core product. Are you tired yet? I'm going back and forth. And how do you extend out on that? We're not really a stylish company, obviously. We're much more casual. We need to think about winter. We're not active. We're not going to compete with Nike or Adidas. We're not a performance brand. So how do you think about products on a spectrum? How do you think about your products or your services on a spectrum? And who do you compete with? What's your competitive advantage? And we always looked at the material in the shoe. I did it again. As far as how we think products start to grow and look. And so you get into sneakers. So we did sneakers in 2007 and a new one now in 2012. Flats we brought in. If women in the room know Melissa, it's a Brazilian brand, uses a specific kind of material to it. We kind of took that down and said, well, we're going to do the same kind of things with our products. We're going to put a different upper on it. Makes it look a little bit more stylish. It wasn't way up there on the stylish curve, but it gives us a little bit more fashionable kind of product, even down into how we would build a simple boot that would compete with maybe a North Face, but more lightweight and a cheaper price. And then you go even further out. This has been a fabulous selling product for us. Super lightweight, fuzzy. You don't normally think that you would find this from Crocs. You wouldn't go into a Crocs store in Park Meadows or Flatirons and walk in and expect to see that kind of product from us, and even that kind of welly women's rain boot. So how do you inch your way out? How do you get small successes? Not every product up there is a home run. Not every product up there we're going to sell 1 million pairs. But for a product company like us, we have 28 different styles today that have sold more than 1 million pairs, and we've been around about 7 years. That's pretty successful for a footwear brand. And even you see this new kind of Huarache kind of flip that we brought out 2 years ago. So this is kind of how we think about a roadmap. This is how we think about driving the business, that you always have to think about where your customers are going, not only where they've been, but where they're going, and where you can then provide some type of competitive product. And you kind of get an idea. We think that good design is as little design as possible. Steve Jobs is somebody who played with the design of the iPhone many times before it came out. In fact, that first design, if you remember, kind of had that rounded edge. It was because he didn't like the feeling, that original feeling, how it was squared out. And he played with it, he played with it, he played with it. Not people in the design lab, Steve Jobs did, until he got it right, until he got it to the point where he said, I think this is what's going to be the best product possible. If you look at it, the design is so simple. Those original iPhones are so simple. I was working in high tech at the time. We were building 90 million cell phones for other people. And I remember some of the Motorola design engineers said that iPhone, it's a toy. It's not a real phone. We're a phone company. He's kind of a struggling PC company. What does he know about phones? Well, last 10 years, what's happened to Motorola? Got sold twice. They're not even in the phone business anymore. And who's the dominant player in the world? Innovation is something that starts with you. If you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, it has to come from you. And you can't let other people deter you from saying, no, that's not going to sell. I looked at those original clogs, which we have sold over 100 million pairs of those ugly clogs. And our first ad campaign was "Ugly Can Be Beautiful," and you played off of that whole theme. There is a place out there. sometimes you're the one that has to have that vision. And those 2 guys from Fairview High School and one other guy, they had that belief. They were out with bags those first 2 years, selling these clogs out of bags at trade shows, at events. And then a guy from Arkansas who has a place in Aspen saw him one day and said, I think these are great shoes. And he drove all the way back down from Aspen, found 8 people sitting in Boulder in a small room. And he said, hi, I'm Alex Dillard. Maybe you might know, my family runs a department store chain, and I'd like to carry your shoes in my store. And those guys didn't know what to do. And Alex Dillard, we always called kind of the godfather of Crocs, because once he put them in the stores, Macy's had to have them, Nordstrom had to have them, and that little innovation, that little product that no one else was building at the time, then took off. So these are some of the kind of concepts that we think about when we design products, we develop products. I'm going to shift to the last two things, which is what I think is really important, which is product, price, place, promotion, and people. But I'm not going to go through all those. I'm going to tell you what I think is the most important thing, and that is that do you start a company on a strategy, or do you start it with a culture? And I think a lot of times people say, well, you start with strategy. When in fact, if you look at Spielberg and when they all started, DreamWorks, they said the 3 of us want to work together. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? And they started with this idea. They were going to create some kind of culture that was then going to spawn movies. That's where they started in the process. When I came back, I inherited a company that I think had a lot of great people, and you have to have great people in your company. We ask our executives to read 2 books, one of which is Good to Great, and the other one is Speed of Trust, because the other thing that drove this business to go from 0 to $850 million in a matter of 3 years at Crocs was trust, and the trust within the people in the organization. But what was lacking, why that kind of went up and then imploded and came all the way back down to $640 million 2 years later and almost went bankrupt, was there was no culture. And so I think of this, and we're going to talk about culture in a second, I think that you have to have culture first. And then, of all those things that are on there, you can solve the first 4, but you got to have great people. And you as a leader have to be committed to what you're doing. As people in a business, it all starts with us. And that's kind of my story, is after 9.5 years, I don't think I have it in me anymore to go in and work like that hard, running a global business. 70% of our revenue in Crocs comes outside the United States. So a $1.3 billion company, you have $900 million worth of revenue outside of the United States. We built a global business in a very short period of time. And it takes people that are able to do that. Then the rest of those things just seem to kind of all work together. So let me kind of finish with you with what I think is really important. So many years ago, 28 years ago, I met my wife, and I had gone through kind of a rough divorce. I was married young, 22, 23 years of age, got divorced, and during that process, what I learned, I'd gone to a Catholic school in Montana, Carroll College, and a priest that was there had kind of done marital counseling with us. Started with, can you sit down as a couple, can you sit down as a company, and can you write down these 3 things? Can you write down what you believe in? Creed, code, and culture. Can you write down, can you say, what do we believe in? And so when I came back to Crocs, kind of saw this mess. I'd worked with these people from afar. I was the COO living in Singapore. I said, we're going to do this. We're going to apply something that I learned in my own personal life. We're going to apply this to this business. And so they thought I was screwing around. It was 7 o'clock at night. We were in Boulder. We brought in some pizzas and some beer and wine. I said, we're not leaving until you guys do this. And so we had global executives in, and we went through and we tried to do this. And it took them till about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Then they realized, we're not going home. I'm serious until we kind of get this right. And so as business owners, as business operators, what do you believe in? Personally, what do you believe in? And, I think that you have to believe in your customers. I think you have to believe in your consumers. In today's market, 55% of our revenue comes from selling it to department stores or sporting goods stores. But 45% of Crocs revenue today comes from either the internet. About 11% of our revenue, $140 million comes across the internet, connecting with you, knowing what your buying patterns are, knowing when you buy on sale, knowing that you haven't bought for a while, knowing that you bought them for your children. How do we get you as moms to then buy them? All that retail analytics is so important, and 35% of our business is in our own stores. We have 700 stores of our own, but with partners, we have 1,300 stores with partners plus 700 of our own. We have 2,000 stores globally that you can walk into that say Crocs on the outside. And to do that, you have to be passionate about your brand and delighting your customers. Your customers have to feel good about your products. We had a program at one point that if you bought a pair of Crocs, they didn't fit, you had to send a picture in to our e-commerce staff, and they would decide whether you were qualified to get a free pair back or not. That's not treating or delighting your customers. Send the shoes back and we'll give you your money back. You have to think about what your values are in your business. Creating a fun environment that fosters innovation. People in Boulder, younger people, you look at our workforce, a lot of people under the age of 35 in our business. And how do you create innovation? How do you create a fun environment where people are stimulated and feel like they're contributing? And lastly, building respect in each other's trust and supporting the communities. We've done a lot over time. Crocs Care is a program that we've run for, 6, 7 years now. We've given away 3.8 million pairs of shoes globally. So we do care and we do give back and we do support the communities. It's not Tom's, that's their marketing, that's their company, that's what he believes in. That's not really our marketing, but we still have those same values and we believe in giving back. Code. These are not, I didn't write this. Our executive sat down and wrote this. The only one I wrote in here was the don't play politics because I never did it well in my career. And I said, there's no value for it in a business. And so these are the rules that we live by. So creed, what do we believe in? Code, what are the rules that we're going to live by? What are the rules that we have in the business and how you think about the way that you operate your business? And, there's a lot of different inputs from various people and a lot of wordsmithing on this over the last couple of years. Set the bar high, strive for excellence, and reward performance. People like to be rewarded. People like to be called out and made feel good. And I wish in the first 2 rows tonight I could have called somebody out and made them feel good, but it was not to be. But next time. Whoops, I turned it off. And then our culture. So creed, code, and culture, our 3 C's. And the culture that you have, love your customers, respect personal lives. It's really hard in today's world. Everybody works hard. Everybody's connected. If we've got iPads, iPhones, Samsung phones, you're constantly connected. How do you put it all down and create that right work-life balance? We do a program in Crocs called 980. Which we kick off. We do it for 6 months out of the year. That means you get to work your 80 hours in 9 days. And you get every other Friday or every other Monday off. And when we announced that it was back on again, one of our employees is here, people were crazy. They love it. You work really hard. You need that time to regenerate your batteries too in the process. And nothing's better than that, although the weather's been kind of crappy the last week or so. We had really like spring early this year. Remember last year how bad it was all the way through May. You have to have that in your culture. Win, celebrate, and improve. Not repeat, but improve. And so we've played with different wording on here. And probably the last one, I think, is that you have to be, whatever you're doing, you have to be a company or your industry kind of zealot. And we have to be brand zealots. You have to wear your shoes. You have to be proud of it. And sometimes people would think it was goofy. We go to New York and visit investors, and we'd have Crocs on with our suits. But you have to believe it. You have to be a brand zealot. And whatever you're doing, be proud of it. So thanks for having me tonight.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chuck Miller. I'm the managing principal and co-founder of the Market Element. I am based in Boulder, and my colleague here, Oliver, he is based in Houston, Texas. And first of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming here this evening. I know we're competing against the NFL draft. It's tough competition, but I know that you're checking to see how the Broncos are doing and keeping my fingers crossed that they get defense this year. We really need that. So tonight is very exciting for me on many different levels. A little bit, I kind of feel like Oprah tonight, to be honest with you. And what I mean by that is Oprah has this TV segment, Her Favorite Things. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a great show. Anyways, so tonight's kind of representation of some of Chuck's favorite things. And don't get too excited. I'm not giving any cars away or free websites or anything like that. But everyone speaking tonight, I know personally. I've done business with them. They're fantastic companies, great products, very innovative people, great track record of success. But I want to let you know you're in good hands tonight because the topic I'm going to speak about tonight is something I'm an expert on. Feel very good about it. That topic is failure. So as an entrepreneur, I've had the experience, both success and failure. And as you know, failure can be some of your best teaching tools, right? You learn a lot from failure, more than your successes. And when I try to think about those failures, I really can't point to a single thing and say that's what caused that failure. No, it was really the cumulative effect of many small decisions over time that added up, and those businesses failed. So, as a result of that, I was thinking, wow, if I had better data at that time, at those decision points, would I have changed those decisions? And there's no question about it. I would have made better decisions, and maybe those businesses would not have failed. But they did, and that I learned a lot from that. And I changed my philosophy on how to manage business. I became much more data-driven. And so after those failures, I really spent a lot of time looking at tools and frameworks and platforms to help me make better decisions as a manager. Now, luckily, I had the opportunity to be a part of a startup in 2009, 2010. That company was called PicoSpin. Now, PicoSpin was the manufacturer of the world's first miniature NMR spectrometer. So I know it's for chemists. It's a really fantastic tool for chemists, and it really revolutionized chemistry education. So I was asked to be the director of business operations as well as the director of marketing. And I knew that I had a bootstrap budget. So I had to find tools to give me good data that I can act on that would increase my chances of success and help me minimize my failures and be able to measure my ROI. That's what I was looking for. So luckily, I settled in on inbound marketing. That's what I decided on doing. I customized it. We took this product to market. It was a huge success. About a year and a half ago, we sold the business. And to be honest with you, it's a marketer's dream, right? It was an innovative product, and it was just fantastic to market. And I got the help of Carbonate to do the website. They did a wonderful job. But after that sale of the company, I decided to productize this digital formula. So I worked with Oliver, and we designed the market element. And we are an inbound marketing consulting agency that helps small, medium-sized businesses with inbound marketing because I know how much it's helped me. I know how much it helps small businesses and medium-sized businesses because it's cost-effective, allows you to measure your ROI and increases your chances of success and minimizes your failure. So it's a fantastic framework to work with. So tonight, most of the presentation is going to be about inbound marketing. Just take a quick sip here. So, again, I'm going to talk about what it is, why it's so powerful, talk a little bit about the methodology that goes into inbound marketing, what are the foundational components, and then kind of bring it together from a strategic perspective. How do these pieces fit together? And then talk about how it improves your ROI and puts you in a position so you can manage against failure. So those are pretty powerful value proposition for inbound marketing. All right, so what is it? So inbound marketing leverages rich, compelling, and contextual content. You take that content and you go online and you try to be strategically found by your target market. You do that through creative CTAs, call to actions, and you hope that that target market sees that and they click on it. They're opting into that call to action, which then takes them right to your website. And at that point, you want to convert that individual into a lead. Again, they're opting in to become a lead. And then you nurture that lead until they become an opportunity, and you nurture them again until they become a customer. That whole process is inbound marketing, otherwise known as pull marketing. Now, to contrast that, there's push marketing, right? In these type of cases, they haven't opted in at all. This is direct marketing, telemarketing, print advertising, television. That is the old traditional way of marketing, a lot less effective than inbound marketing. So studies have shown that inbound marketing will increase leads, improve your conversion rates, increase revenue, and of course your ROI. So there's definitely some powerful value props there for inbound marketing. So I just have a few statistics to share with you tonight, just to kind of support how powerful inbound marketing is. This study by HubSpot has shown that inbound marketing delivers 54% more leads to your funnel than traditional outbound marketing. So very powerful, and I don't have the statistic in front of me, but also increases your quality of leads as well. This next statistic was provided by Search Engine Journal that says inbound leads are 61% less than outbound leads. So here's a financial justification for inbound marketing. And this one is of particular interest of me too, because HubSpot did this survey, okay, and they surveyed 3,400 senior level marketing executives and asked them, what is your biggest challenge? And that challenge is measuring or proving ROI on their marketing activities. Even for this group here, I sent out a survey and I asked all of you, can you measure your ROI? And 70% of the people that responded said no. So clearly this is a problem for a lot of businesses. And inbound marketing, the way it's constructed, because it's a digital platform, will allow you the capabilities to measure your ROI. So I particularly like this graphic. This is actually provided by HubSpot. Now HubSpot is an inbound marketing software platform. But they from a pictorial standpoint, I really like it, and I use this all the time. But inbound marketing is broken down into 4 distinct phases. There's the attract phase, convert, close, and delight. And the objective of these 4 phases is to use specific timely tactics to help move that individual through the customer lifecycle until they become customers. So that is basically, in a nutshell, the inbound marketing methodology. So in order to have a solid inbound marketing platform, you need 5 foundational components, in my opinion. And those are the website, your SEO, SEM, social media, email marketing, and measurement. Now, I wish I could spend a lot of time on each one of these components. Just don't have the time. But I'm going to highlight a particular characteristic that you'll see like a common thread through all of inbound marketing, and that is persona focus. It is, whether you're a small business, a startup, or a multinational, it's really important to know who your customers are. So spending time in creating these personas. Now, personas are in essence fictional characters that represent a target group. And those target groups have characteristics and behaviors that you want to acquire. Those are your target markets. So you develop your personas, and then you develop your content off of those personas. You also develop your keywords off of those personas. What's going to resonate with those personas? And another comment on keywords, try not to think of generic single word keywords. You just won't be found effectively. Think of the long tail keyword, and those are 2 to 3 words put together. Now, social media. Someone told me this one time, it resonated, but you're at a cocktail party. You don't want to be the me monster, right? You don't want to talk about yourself. Me, 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 it's all about me. You're going to be tuned out at that party, right? You want to, if you're going to talk about yourself, maybe 50% of the time. The other 50%, you want to be engaging and interacting with the community. So again, your messaging needs to be geared toward your personas on social media. The most important thing you can do for your email marketing is have highly segmented lists. And you do that by focusing on your personas, making sure that content is married with those personas, and segment your list. That will increase your open rates and your conversion rates dramatically. And pulling this all together, in my opinion, is a marketing automation platform. Now, there's so many platforms out there. There's HubSpot, of course. There's Marketo. Salesforce has one. Silverpop. There's just a lot of platforms. And luckily, there's been a democratization of this technology, which makes it very affordable for small business and startups to afford these platforms now. So I've had several different meetings about this, and they always ask, do I have to invest in marketing automation tool in order to do inbound marketing? The answer is no. You really don't. However, you won't be able to measure your successes. You open yourself up to more risk, and it just, because they're so affordable these days, it just doesn't make sense why not to look at it and consider it. So this is a blank strategy map. So along the x-axis there at the very top are the 4 distinct phases I talked about in the methodology. And along the y-axis there are the 5 foundational components. Now I just wanted to share this with you at a 40,000-foot view to give you an understanding of how a strategy map would look like from a tactical standpoint. The most important tactic that you're going to employ for inbound marketing is your content. When everyone says content is king, it's absolutely true, but even more important, it's contextual content that's key. So your content needs to address your personas, but it also needs to address the phase-appropriate time in which those individuals are in the customer life cycle. So it needs to be contextual and address to your content. So this also applies to your call to actions, your campaigns, blogging, keywords, workflows, and of course segmentation, and then also your KPIs and reporting. So along the way, as you roll out these different tactics, just remember personas and context within the phases. And if you start with this, then you can build out a plan from that. So I just want to share with you what a strategy map would look like. Now, I love this particular graph. This was provided by HubSpot. And what they did is they surveyed their customers 1 year after they purchased their software. And they asked them, how have your visitors improved? How have your leads improved? And are you getting more business? And according to the survey, they have their customers, after a year, have 3.5 times more visitors, 6 times more leads, and 69% more revenue. So that is just a huge benefit and testimony to inbound marketing. But of course, the other side of the coin is there are opportunities to fail at each part of that sales funnel. It's just reality. But the great thing about inbound marketing and investing in a platform is that you know if you're failing in real time. You can pivot off of those decisions, change your strategy, and that, to me, is one of the biggest selling points for inbound marketing. It's data-driven. You'll know if you're succeeding, you'll know if you're failing, but you can change your path. And so what I recommend is, obviously, to change your culture of marketing. Make it so it's much more data-driven. And if you invest in these platforms, you'll have real-time feedback. And then you put in the right processes and reporting, you can do some dynamic things, especially with campaigns and promotions. You can get a little bit more creative and be able to do incredible different types of segmentation, progressive profiling, lead scoring. All these are benefits of doing an inbound marketing type of an approach. When you do fail, I recommend stepping back, meeting with your stakeholders, and doing a postmortem. And that postmortem will give you great information. You'll understand causation, effect, and learnings from that. And when you've done this for a while, you're going to find that, wow, I have control over my marketing. I'm willing to take more calculated risks. And that can be just so powerful because that allows you to be creative. And that's really what I'm trying to sell here is like you invest in the platform, you increase your chances of success, minimize your risk, be able to measure your ROI, and you have a culture now that you can be a risk taker. And that's so key in marketing. So I leave you with this quote, don't be afraid to fail, be afraid not to try. So thank you, everybody. Really appreciate talking to you. And if you have questions about inbound, please come see me.
Over the course of the next 15 minutes or so, I'd like you to think about how your company compares to the companies that I'll be talking about. Let's shift this a little bit down. What's the separation between good companies and great ones? I bet when you think about great companies, a few of them come to mind. Companies like Coca-Cola, Apple, Walt Disney, and Nike. When you think about these companies, what are the feelings that they elicit for you? Nike makes us feel like we really can do it. Coke makes us feel nostalgic, or maybe that we're part of the in crowd. And Apple, even in its early days, made us feel like we were on the cutting edge or we were innovators. But you don't have to have $1 million graphic design budget to get your message across and to really create that feeling that you want to create for your prospects. Truly, the magic is in your message. Show of hands, how many people when they were kids wanted to go to Disney World or Disneyland? Me too. How many people have kids or grandkids who are bugging you to go? Yeah. Well, ticket prices these days for a a one-day pass to Disney World or Disneyland is nearing $100. But we'll pay it. We want that magic. Think about the goosebumps that you got, or maybe you still get, when you watch the TV commercials of kids skipping down Main Street with their Mickey Mouse ears donned proudly on their heads. Or maybe the magazine ads that you saw of Cinderella's castle glowing in the evening sky. Or maybe that jealousy that crept in when you were a kid and your best friend told you that she got to hug Snow White. Well, Disney does a great job, and some of those other companies do great jobs of really portraying their message in a way that gives us that feeling of something that we want to have, or some way that we want to feel, or who we want to be. And what's really cool about the human brain is that once that message gets into our brain, our subconscious mind will figure out a way to get it. So the key is to have that great message that resonates with your target audience so that they're doing all the work. Unfortunately, not all of our companies are Disney-esque. We sell solutions to manage and store big data. We build electronic components. We develop software. Certainly nothing sexy about that, and nothing worth skipping down Main Street about. Unless, of course, we change our focus and change our mindset and think about how we can create that magical message for our audiences. Let's go back to the Disney example really quick. If you are walking down Main Street in Disney World or Disneyland and you come across the Toy Story characters, try yelling, "Andy's coming!" Immediately, the Toy Story characters will drop to the ground and pretend that they're average, lifeless toys. They truly embody their brand. Sarah Jones, who's an employee for Disney, whenever she gets dressed for work, she becomes Snow White. She truly embodies that brand and gives us all that magical experience that we're looking for. And of course, as you know, it starts at the top. I've consulted for companies for several years, and it always fascinates me how the communication between the CEO and the rest of the ranks sometimes doesn't go all the way down to the very bottom. When that message gets miscommunicated and distorted and diluted within your company, can you imagine how the message is getting miscommunicated outside of your company to the people that really matter to you the most, right? Your prospects. One time, a couple of years, I had the opportunity to work with a mid-sized company. And on day one, I spent a couple of hours with the CEO. And he went about telling me what their strategy was and who their target audience was and how they were going after that target audience. Well, shortly after that meeting, I had a meeting with mid-level managers at that very same company. And they proceeded to tell me that while they knew that the CEO had strategy A in mind, they wanted to go after a completely different target audience in a completely different way. Huge red flag, right? I'm glad they hired me. So when you have that sort of message that's being miscommunicated in your own company, again, imagine the messages that are getting out to your prospects. Developing a superior message begins with developing your brand. And I don't mean going out and designing a new logo. Developing your brand begins with your core identity, who you are as a company, what value you bring to your prospects, and how you're going to message that so that they want what you have. It's only when you get that message straight internally that you can start to take that message out to your external audience. That message has to be tight, it has to be clear, it has to be communicated within, and it has to be communicated everywhere. So that once you get to that point, you have that message that resonates with your prospects, delivers that great value proposition, and all of a sudden becomes magical. I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to tour the Crocs facility, thanks to John. And Crocs truly embodies their brand. When you walk in the doors of Crocs, they have colorful walls that are donned with inspirational messages all around. They've got meeting rooms that have these big tables where everyone's huddled around, sketching out new ideas. The meeting rooms are filled with shoes, and more shoes, and lots of fashion photography. They also have a fully set up storefront within their offices that's set up with that season's line of shoes. so that their message is masterfully orchestrated from the inside out. They truly know how to create a message that sticks. So how do we do this with the software companies and the developers and the electronic manufacturers and the big data companies? Well, it's really an easy process, but we have to step through it. We have to build from the inside out. So we start by understanding what our value is as a company, what we bring to the table. Then we begin to embody that core message within our company. And John talked a little bit about culture, and it's all about really embodying that message, embodying that brand, so that everything that you say and do within your company is the same message that you're taking out to your prospects. And then finally, having a shift in the way that you're thinking, less business to business and more person to person. So let's dig a little bit deeper, starting with understanding your value. When I start working with customers, with companies, we always start with developing a mission and a vision statement. And that's a really great place to start because it sort of sets the foundation. Everyone's on the same page. But you have to dig a lot deeper. You begin with looking at your greatest growth opportunity. What is it? Hone in on that. Find out who your prospects are that are going to engage with you so that you can get to that next growth level. And it's only then that you can be able to create the messaging that resonates with that target audience. What they want to have, how they want to feel, who they want to be, what sort of problems you're solving for them. And then embodying that core message at your core, within the culture of your company. Becoming your brand, much like Sarah Jones does every time she puts on that Snow White outfit. Being clear about your message. And I'm not talking about just with your press releases or your advertising campaigns, but clear within. Everything that you're talking about within your company is everything that you're talking about outside of your company. Even if it's somebody that you meet at the gym or at the bar, you're talking that same message. You're being consistent. And then finally, and I think this is really important, is to shift your thinking from business to person. While my company might want to do business with your company and vice versa, it's really the people that matter. So if my message is resonating with you, and you are connecting with what I'm saying, and you want to have and feel and be exactly what I'm talking about, then you're going to become the biggest advocate for me and for my company. So if we can relate to our clients on that personal level, we can take our communication to that magical moment. So as we build our brand, think about and build our messaging. Think about your customers and what you want them to think about, what they want to have and how they want to feel and who they want to be. And this shortens your sales cycle, which is the beauty of it all. All of a sudden, your clear message gets into their subconscious minds, and they begin thinking about ways that they can have what you offer, your product or your service. So before I wrap up, I want to do a little drawing for a book called StrengthsFinder 2.0. And if you haven't read this book yet and you're a leader in your company, I highly recommend it. It's based on a Gallup survey that was done over a 40-year period of time, and they determined 34 top human strengths that humans have. Not strengths, but your strengths. The book talks about all those strengths, and it also has a little code in the back that you can use one time, and you can go online and do the assessment. And the assessment will come back to you with your top 5 strengths. And the whole premise behind this is that we, Americans, spend so much time working on our weaknesses when instead we can focus on our strengths that will help take us to the next level. So I'm going to give away one of these books. If you dropped your card in the little bowl this morning or this evening, I'm just going to pick one out. And it goes to Lisa Case from Case Consulting. Thanks, Lisa. I'm going to give this to Mona up here, and you can grab it next time you're up here. So as I close, I'd like to leave you with a little challenge. When you walk into your office tomorrow, I'd like you to think about deconstructing your message, thinking about your biggest growth opportunity that you have in front of you, let's say for the next 6 months or the next year, who your target audience is, and then think about the messages that you're giving out to the world now. And think about the messages that you're talking about within your company today. And then deconstruct those. And maybe if you shift that thinking a little bit, that will be all the pixie dust you need to take your company to the next level. Thanks for your attention tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Yes, I'm Scott King. I was one of the, there's a couple of co-founders, but Dan and I started the company about 14 years ago. We've been local to Denver and been growing steadily for the last 14 years. ReadyTalk's been named one of the best companies to work for, one of the best awards I know of, because I feel like engaged employees create very satisfied customers. And I know there was some talk about culture being the first thing that's kind of a key characteristics of great companies, and at ReadyTalk we really believe that it's all about culture. But today's topic is really around webinars, and specifically focusing webinars on the sales pipeline and understanding how you can use webinars to move prospects and leads through the buying process to create customers. So first question I have is, how many of you today are using webinars in your marketing programs? So probably about 50%. This is one of the reports that Content Marketing Institute put together, and it shows about 62% of the companies doing B2B are using webinars for content marketing and for demand gen. So you're right with your peers in terms of using this. 2 years ago, that was 46%, so it's grown quite a bit over the last couple of years. So I'm going to go through 7 tips. The first one is making sure that you focus the content on the audience you're talking to. If you deliver too broad a topic or too diluted a message, it's not going to be good for anybody. So you have to think about who you're talking to, what the role of the buyer is, what the problems they're having. Importantly, what's the stage that they're actually in their evaluation or buying process, geography, and what industry are they in. The second tip is really delivering value. If you think about top of funnel in selling and in marketing, what you're trying to do is become a thought leader, creating content that helps bring your company into the conversation of the problems that customers are having. It might be content marketing, for example. Your thought leadership might be around how do you build content for the different buying stages or buying process for customers. That's a topic a lot of people are trying to figure out right now. So if you can start to communicate and become a thought leader in that, people are going to start to recognize your products, your brand for solving those kind of problems. So it's a pretty broad audience you're trying to go. It's casting a wide net. It's focusing on top of mind issues for those customers, and it's delivering real value in that type of content. So customers need to walk away from that information with real actionable intelligence. I was at Hewlett Packard for 15 years before I started in a startup environment, and one of the interesting things at the early days of HP is that we were all engineers selling test equipment, and we were the experts. The salespeople were the consultants, and customers would call us and ask us questions on how to solve problems. And we were the gatekeepers to knowledge for the customers to understand how to solve these problems. You look back at those days, and we'd have racks of data sheets and application notes in a closet, and we would file through that, hand it off to customers. We would fly out systems engineers and do online seminars, subject matter experts, but we were the keys to the information. You look at today, and the customers have access to all that information at their fingertips. And sales has been transformed overnight into being really at the back end of a buying process where the customer is already fully educated in terms of what they're looking at and what they're interested in. And if you're not playing a role in creating thought leadership about how your products can solve problems, your salespeople will never have a chance to engage with them. So this is a really important part for marketing, especially in B2B marketing, to make sure that you're going to be part of the conversation, and that customers, when they're ready, they're going to reach out to your salesperson, but they're already halfway through the decision process. And your salesperson is now taking a customer that may or may not have good information about the problem they're trying to solve, and then try to bring them back up and say, here's why we're better. So top of funnel, also consider bringing in experts into this conversation, because it's again, you've got to deliver information that's credible, that delivers value, and that creates the connection between solving that problem and the products that you offer. One of the things that you definitely want to stay away from in this part of the sales process is pitching your product. If you're doing a thought leadership webinar and you start to go into a product pitch, you're going to lose credibility and you're going to lose the audience. So once you've built an interest with prospects and leads, now it's targeting that message to really being why your product for solving that problem. And so it's focusing on the solutions. This is where you can do product pitches. This is where you can bring in subject matter experts, or even better, bring in customers that are using your product to give you credibility and reduce the risk of customers going ahead with you on that solution. So you should focus this type of webinar on a much smaller audience. So these are clients that are actively investigating how to solve this problem. And it's a smaller group of people that you're going to be talking to. And what you want to do here, if you're promoting a webinar, be very explicit that we're going to do a demo. We're going to show you how to solve this problem. You're going to have less people attend that webinar, but they're going to be very interested in trying to figure out that solution. So you're showcasing why you're better. You're showcasing it with hopefully happy customers, and you're validating and delivering proof on why you can solve that problem. How many of you that raise hands on doing a webinar use chat or polling for engagement? A few. So one of the reasons you do this is to engage your customers in the webinar itself. The other reason you want to do this is to really start to qualify and understand what they're interested in. So you can ask questions that start to give you BANT. You can take a lead and put it into a qualified lead. You can start to understand what the customer needs are, and if they're not a qualified lead you're engaging with, you can still nurture and market to them based on that information. But what do you do with that information that you get out of the webinar? And if you don't have ways to integrate it into the systems that allow you to manage and measure the performance of that webinar, you're losing a lot of the value. So having the ability to very quickly say, this person's interested and they're at this actual buying stage in the process, and I'm going to start to message them with different content. That is all based on the systems that you have to deploy to be able to measure and manage where your customers are, where your prospects are in the buying process. The second thing is designing a webinar with reuse in mind. So thinking about if I'm going to spend the money and time and effort to put together a solid webinar, how do I make sure that I can get the most value out of that? And so you think about repurposing content right from the beginning. So you're thinking about, when I build a webinar, excuse me, I'm going to build it in a way that I can take parts of this webinar and repurpose it into other content. And so having a 45, 60-minute diatribe of 50 slides is not an easy way to repurpose content. If you were to have a moderator or a panel of speakers, subject matter experts, that's much easier to repurpose for other applications, blog posts, white papers, other things. So, and then also making sure that you're creating content that is messaging that your customers and prospects can message against. So you think about it, when each of these slides have a consistent message that people can tweet, and it's really taking that and expanding it through social networks. And then basically taking content that has natural breakpoints. And so if you have sections that you can say, this part is going to now be a section that I can repurpose into a blog post or a white paper. And then lastly, repurposing that content. Our team put together an exercise saying, how can you take a webinar and how many pieces of content can you create out of that webinar? They came up with 19. I think they could have done 20. But I think 19 felt better on the document. But you think about it, taking the slides and publishing those to SlideShare and making that searchable. Taking a part of your webinar and making it into a blog post or making it into a recording that you promote a new webinar with. Or taking the transcript and the recording of that webinar and making that actionable content on your website. There's lots of ways to repurpose content. And this is one of the biggest challenges marketers have, is creating the engine that supports your content marketing program. And so webinars are a great way, a great tool to create that content. And again, create it across the entire buying cycle for a customer. And then lastly, taking webinars and onboarding customers, the impact that you can have and the experience that you can deliver when you bring customers onto your service, onto your products right from the beginning. So it allows you to engage with customers in a live environment. It allows you to deliver on-demand content, either in an onboarding program or a training or best practices program. And it allows you to create advocates and champions for your company by really educating customers on how to use your technology and engaging with them in conversations through these online live trainings. And again, going back to one of the things you want to avoid is creating too broad a topic so that you're not really satisfying the needs of a particular consumer. So we actually have training and onboarding for a marketer around webinars. We have training and onboarding for collaborative users. So we don't combine those because the message gets diluted. That's great. I'll be around this evening if you have any questions. And again, appreciate your time and interest.
All right, we're going to do a speed course tonight in websites and web usability. So about 8 years ago, when I decided I wanted to not be on the client side doing marketing and hang out a shingle, I had a client that was crazy enough to ask me if we could do their website for them. And I had only done a website twice in my career, right? I mean, that's kind of the cycle. If you're in marketing or Marcom, you do your website once every 3 or 4 years. And so I really actually had no idea. I ran home, read a book all weekend long, got the fattest book at the bookstore that I could find, read it, and then pretended I was an expert on Monday. And unfortunately, the client gave us the business. The site is still out there. It's embarrassing. And I once in a while go there just to feel bad about myself and see how terrible the website was. In the meantime, we've learned a lot. And I have come to gain a huge respect for something that I was a little cavalier about earlier in my career. And so I'm hoping to kind of give a taste for what we've learned at Carbonate. The websites we're doing today are so much better than the sites we did even 3 or 4 years ago. I don't apologize if you're my client then, but come to us now, it'll be even better. So I guess I don't have to go over there, do I? So I'm going to jump right through this. Oh, Chuck, we kept PicoSpin up there. We can't let go of it. We love you guys and wish the brand was still around. All right, let's start with this. What decade was this research provided? Research suggests that if you set the copy in black type on a white background, more people will read it than if you set it on white type on a black background. 1930s, this was known. The research had shown this. And when we started doing websites at Carbonate, and you guys probably remember this, there were all sorts of sites that thought it was really cool to have a black site and the text was on white. I know this because one of my employees some years ago gave me a book by Ogilvy, and I started reading this book, and the data and research that Ogilvy uses from the 1940s, 1950s, and probably 4 times in that book I was reading things about usability that were known a long time ago, and that we were making the exact same mistakes on the web. And so it kind of got me thinking, the web is new, but advertising is not. In Ogilvy's day, the new thing was TV. In our day, it's the web. And one of his quotes I loved was, because I almost think to some degree we can all be victims of thinking like this, is, he says there have been lunatics on the fringes of advertising business. Their stock in trade includes eccentric art direction, contempt for research, and their self-proclaimed genius. Ouch, right? I would not want to be one of those people. But I have to admit, at times, I think we have been when we don't really have the respect that we should for the art and the science of what we're working with. And this is something we live by at Carbonate. It is, if it doesn't sell, it's not creative. I don't care how beautiful your website is, if you are not getting customers in the door, it's not creative. It's beautiful, it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's not creative, at least not in the context of what we're trying to do as marketers. So here it is. I mean, is this website creative? The answer probably is yes. I'm just shocked they haven't changed after all these years, but the site works. And how is it creative? It is so easy to find what you want. You don't have to log in. There's no barriers, there's no gates. It's just a find stuff love fest, right? So this is the cycle that we have observed or we hear from our clients over the years. And at any given time, probably right now at Carbonate, we're working on probably 10 websites for our clients. And so this is what, and you might have experienced this, we need a website. Oh, and by the way, it has to be done in 4 months, right? Of course, all of a sudden it has to be done in 4 months. So you launch the website and wait a minute, we need more traffic. Great, so let's start engaging in tactics to bring in more traffic to our website. Oh, whoops, they're not converting. Dang it, well, what's wrong? Oh, the website's wrong. Oh, maybe we should redesign the website, says the new marketing director, right? So this cycle, we would love to take everyone out of, right? And today we can't talk about everything that goes into the website. We did a little word cloud with just, all the things that go into it, the technologies, the usability, the content management system, lead generation. I mean, it just goes, there's really so much that goes into a website and thinking about it, especially if you're doing it right. We're going to focus a bit more on usability, okay? That's not very usable. Game of Thrones, who likes it? Come on. Yeah, right, okay. Love this chair, right? I want this chair, but would I watch a movie in it? I doubt it, right? So let's go and talk about websites and see if we can't tonight. I can give kind of a glimpse into the type of respect or ideas or ways to think about a website that might actually really transform that website success. So what does the web research tell us? There's so much of it out there. There's just great people doing great research trying to find out what really works on the web and what doesn't work on the web. And it's obvious. I mean, so much business is happening there. So look at this. This is a heat map. This is for eye tracking. So people love faces. So if you throw a face on your website, people are going to look at that, right? That's just what happens. We do that as humans. And then you can see, okay, they're kind of looking at the copy. Let's see if I can point here. Kind of looking at the copy here. Some people like diapers. They're staring at the diapers. But then watch what happens. All we did is the baby is now looking at the copy. And look what happened. Still looking at the baby's face with the same amount of heat, but look how much more time people are spending on the site. And guess what? They're actually reading the copy. So a simple change like that has completely changed the viewer's engagement with the copy that's on the site. That can lead to sales, that type of thinking and understanding those type of things. Now, the other thing we see, maybe in going back, you see there's a typical F pattern for the way people read sites. You might have heard about this. This is from the Norman Nielsen group. They see consistently that people jump on the page, they start here, and they go across, and then they come back, and they go down, and they create this F pattern. You can actually kind of see that happening with this website here. So if you think about your users on your website that are potential buyers, what is the number one thing they are looking for? Anyone want to guess? What's the number one thing that users are looking for when they land on your website? Right. I was on Cisco's site all last night. There's no porn on Cisco's site. Hopefully not. Let's see, what else? The research shows, I haven't heard it yet. I thought somebody would yell it out. Price, that is right. The number one thing they're looking for is pricing. The number one thing that our clients don't want to put on their websites is their pricing. I mean, unless they're in the low end of B2B or they're a B2C company, but any companies that are larger than that, they don't want to put their price. And this is literally what the research is saying. You are creating a hostile shopping experience. You are creating a negative halo for your brand. You are communicating that you're difficult to do business with. And the researcher, again, it's Norman Nielsen, says that this is the number one thing that has been proven over and over that his clients resist the most, and they don't believe him. They won't believe that somebody looking to buy, where's Integra, looking to buy an Ethernet connection for $5,000 a month is going to go to another provider simply because they can't find price on your website. But it shows again and again, they will do that, they will abandon, they'll go somewhere else. And so, So you're probably thinking, okay, if I go tell my boss that we're going to go put our price on our website, they're going to say, you're crazy. We're a B2B company. We don't want our competitors knowing our pricing. Pricing's different for each individual. There are all sorts of excuses. But they really are ultimately excuses. If you literally cannot put pricing on your website, then there are other things you can do that at least will make your potential customers much more happy. Price ranges, typical price scenarios. It's been shown that complex pricing calculators don't work, so don't put those on your website. If you're going to put a price calculator, it has to be very simple. And if you can provide MSRP, all of that will do wonders for your site and for your engagement with your customers on your website. The other thing is there's so much to talk about on this topic, but I want to kind of give you some things to watch out for. One is to watch out for trends. So about a year and a half ago, all of a sudden, the cool people started saying and asking, hey, should we do parallax? Should we do parallax? And it's a really amazing technique, takes a lot of wizardry on the back end and the creative side to make it happen. So tons of respect. It was the HTML5 technologies and the browsers kind of allowed this, enabled it. And so this is the site by New York Times. Have you guys seen this site, the snowfall site? I've seen a few hands. It's amazing. You start scrolling down and the video's playing, and then parallax means things move at different points of view and so forth. So a really cool site, and probably an appropriate use for parallax because it's basically a magazine style experience. But when you test it for about anything else, what the research shows is it's absolutely horrendous. It fails on every aspect except for enjoyment, because it is kind of fun, at least for some people. Not for these people. Whoops. One of the things that was found out was that it makes some people actually sick. So if you have a tendency towards motion sickness, it actually makes you feel ill. Load times are terrible, it loads the processor. SEO is usually bad because usually people do parallax on one long page and Google can't figure out what the page is actually about. You can't optimize for a couple of keywords on a specific page. And of course, then there's mobile issues. So also be suspicious of everybody is doing it. So I'll admit again, in the early days of Carbonate, we kind of imitate, oh, that's what Cisco's doing? That must be good. Maybe we'll do something like that for this client. Here's a great example, though, of a typical technique that does not work. So I'm sure we all have had on our websites or have seen the classic rotating banner. That big banner that's there and it displays one thing after another, rotates every 8 seconds. Often I think it's there because nobody can decide what really should be on the home page. So instead of actually figuring out what their most important thing is to say, they're going to say 6 or 7 things that every product or business group wants them to say. But people have banner blindness. First of all, they skip over it. Another issue is that the actual act of rotating is frustrating for users. They're likely never going to, if you're keeping the banner long enough for somebody to absorb it, by the time they've absorbed it, they're on doing something else. So they're not going to see those other ones anyway. Then let's imagine that they actually do come back and they start paying attention to your banner. And right then, you rotate the banner. An absolutely frustrating experience. You've probably been there where you start to get ready to click on it and, oh man, where did that thing go? So one study showed that on a university website, the banner was clicked 0.1% of the time for all visitors. So don't do it. Even though everybody else does it and Cisco does it, don't do it. The other thing you're probably being asked for all the time by your bosses is show me the conversions, right? What are the conversions? Well, there is a real science to this, that little things make a big difference in getting people to actually hit that wonderful, most exciting submit button. And let's take a look at Basecamp. Basecamp's an interesting company in project management. They actually grew up as an advertising agency and then switched over to this. So hopefully they do things well. I actually think they do. Whoops. And look at this. They followed the F pattern. So here's a great headline, right? Really simple. I comes over here to this nice testimonial from a woman who looks like she's just like you and me. She's not perfect. She's beautiful, but she's not perfect. I love it. And then right here, the sign-up form. Another thing is we often talk about putting out great content so people will engage and give us their information. Another thing we tend to do is we put these firewalls up, we put blocks up in front of the content. Again, not a good idea. It breaks the principle of the web and just of life in general, reciprocity. Give a little before you ask. And so the best technique for this is not to put this up and put this wall and say, hey, you want this awesome stuff? You don't really know what it is. It's awesome. Hit this button. The best thing to do is actually provide them some content. So if it is a white paper, give them a summary. Give them pieces of it. Give them enough that's actually valuable in and of itself and then say, you liked this, didn't you? You want some more? Now click here. So this has been shown again and again to be problematic, and it's not good from an SEO perspective. You put your content behind walls, Google can't find it. Chuck, you don't like that, right? Content behind walls for inbound? Little things too, again, don't assume what's common is actually right. So this is, you guys have all seen this, you're going to the forum and it has these red things. It's required, required, required. Well, guess what? If you did your forum just like this, you're going to get more people to click it. People don't like to be told what to do, and actually people are more willing to give you things freely. So this way, believe it or not, this actually gets more people to fill out that field than this does. This also gets more people to actually fill out the form than saying things are required. Another one, just it's been shown that if you have a form, the way to do it is not like this. The eye has to go back and forth. You want to do it like this, text on top. You see a lot of times people putting text inside the box. Well, as soon as you click on it, it goes away. I actually had this happen today on a site, and it made me angry. All right, so this is the way to do it. Also, where should the button go? These things are, again, shown to actually make a difference. You want the clicks, you need to follow these principles. So the button should go right where the user's eye was going. So in single column, they just finished right here, type in their password, create an account. In two-column layout, they're going to finish right there. So you want to put the button where the visual path ends. We're jumping around, but I thought it'd be kind of fun just to go through a number of things. One of the things that's kind of changed is screen resolution. People talk about below the fold, and there still is some importance to the above the fold experience. What that is all over the place these days. If you look at the screen sizes that are out there, I'll jump to this slide in a second. But you can see that almost everybody today is up to 1024 by 768. And that's what we use at Carbonate as our basis. We use that as, the 1024 by 768 is where we gauge the below the fold experience. But research has also shown that with scrolling on the mouse and so forth, people are very comfortable scrolling down. And what they need is cues to tell them that there's more content. So below the fold's not such a big deal as it used to be. The thing you need to do is look at your analytics. So it's different for different businesses. So on the B2B side, what we see is there's a lot of people on laptops. And so you have to think of a much skinnier screen for B2B customers if it's a consumer. Often it's, and of course you have to think about mobile. So really look at your analytics to decide what you're trying to optimize for or what the worst case scenario is in terms of your users coming to your website. Okay. This is a weird one. The web is different than typical prose. And so what the research shows again here is we all know that grammatically you should spell out in this sentence 8 and 4. But the truth is that for web users, this is far easier for people to peruse. So there are instances where you can break grammatical rules for the web because it really will help your users engage with their content and peruse it better. This is another one. This is off, was it New York Times article? I can't remember where this came from. But if you look at this here, they've broken another rule, which is these paragraphs are only one sentence. And again, this is shown to be actually very easy for users to go ahead and peruse and browse the content and glean information from it. So having said all that, I started off with saying that the site, that Craigslist was a creative site. Having said all that, people still do judge a book by its cover. And the way that they do that, what the research shows is that, they're looking for content, okay, consistency, layout, typography, style, and color. This is a site that we just launched for a company that monitors the dark web, and it's called Owl Labs. And I'm pretty proud of this work. You guys can go take a look at it. But hopefully you judged it well. I mean, if you didn't, that's might be okay too. But people do pay attention to that. I just think that historically we've paid far more attention to that. Isn't the site beautiful? Is different than isn't the site successful? The other thing is it's hard to see your own mistakes. Does anybody see the mistake up here? What is it? Did you see that? I didn't at first. I didn't see the two thes. I was focused on the 1, 2, 3 first. The problem is once you have, even at Carbonate, we can't test the usability of our sites once we've created it. Once we put it there, we know where things are. We know how they function. There's no way we can know what's right and wrong about it. And no matter how much you study usability, you will make mistakes. And so the only way to know that, okay, and to know what's right in front of your eyes is to test. Now, we have a really hard time convincing our customers to test, and maybe we need to sell this a little differently and talk about it more. But the beauty of testing is it really isn't that hard. So you can actually only test about 5 users, and it'll identify 85% of your problems. And it's probably best to test only about 5 users. because when you fix those, you're probably going to create a couple more mistakes. Hopefully you're honing in on a better solution. But by keeping it small, then you can refine and make sure that your site is coming together to do what you want it to do. So that's the good news. You can test this and figure out where you've gone astray. All right, so that's it. That's web usability and websites in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I'm with ImageBrew. As the introduction told you guys, we are a video production shop. We primarily produce branded commercial videos for digital platforms. So most of our videos are going straight to the web, but we do occasionally produce videos that do end up on broadcast television. Creative content production in today's media landscape, again, similar to Mark, want to give you guys a very high level view of where video is today. We all know video is popular. Everyone needs to use video. I want to kind of give you guys our perspective as ImageBrew, kind of where we think things are going and how we can maybe help you guys if you're producing video in your organization or it's something you're thinking about taking on. Clicking. There we go. Sorry, it was off. I think so. Come on, baby. That's what we say to the camera when it's not working. Can I use the key, maybe? Let's activate. Okay, so I'm calling this my first PowerPoint presentation ever. Yes. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Chuck made me do a PowerPoint. Me and my crew were filmmakers. I've never had to do a PowerPoint, so prepare to be wowed. All right, let's quickly get schooled. YouTube, founded in 2005, less than 10 years ago. I think that's astonishing, right? YouTube is huge. We all know and love YouTube. Wanted to quickly just touch on this stuff. Again, this is stuff you guys are all very familiar with, and if you're in marketing, Google, obviously the most visited website. YouTube is in a close second, and then Facebook is third. And the exciting thing about video producers is that video is, of course, all over all of these websites. So what, right? We all know this. Oh, video is the hot stuff. You guys got to use video. Oh, how do we get video on our website? How does our organization get involved with video? So a couple high-level points I wanted to touch upon with you guys is that video is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. The moving image on a screen is not going anywhere. I think it's funny how on CNN now the guys walk on top of video screens and point at maps and touch things, and video is getting very dynamic. And I think that's exciting, but it's a little silly sometimes too. But we're immersed with screens. Screens are everywhere, and video is always going to be a tool far into the future. Everyone, I think, now knows they need to have a good website, as Mark touched upon. People are starting to realize that they need good content on their website, and video is something that people should be seriously considering using as a tool for communication. As my second point notes there. I thought some of these stats were pretty surprising. I found these on Digiday, the website. And these are actually stats from last year. So I couldn't find stats from 2014, but only 24% of national brands are using video on their websites. Pretty surprising, I thought. It's not quite there yet. We don't think that nearly as many companies are using video as companies should be using video right now. 76% of marketers plan to add video to their websites as a higher priority than some social media such as Facebook, Twitter, and blog integration. So I thought that was pretty exciting. Marketers get it, right? We all understand that video is a cool tool we'd love to use, and they're even prioritizing it maybe higher than some other platforms that they're trying to use within the organization. And the last stat we have here is that online video production will account for more than 1/3 of all online advertising spending within the next 4 years. So just some stuff to note there. We're seeing that broadcast budgets, companies having a budget for big TV commercials, totally got slashed, obviously, when web video really became popular. And there's just really not the budgets there quite yet, and they're getting better, and we're always trying to educate our clients and encouraging our clients to budget more dollars towards video just because it is so powerful. And this is good to see that companies hopefully are planning on putting more funds towards online video. Okay, we get it. Again, Ben, what are you talking about? This is all old news. Now what? How can you help us? Web video is in a very early stage, and this is something that we're trying to stay on top of. Where is it going into the future? So it's an exciting time right now. It's getting more and more popular every year, and everyone's not really sure if what they're doing is working. YouTube still has a bad rap that it's very amateur video. It's a lot of quote unquote crap on YouTube, and it's hard to find the good stuff. But people are using video, and that's the good news. We're happy as a film production company that organizations that we're talking to are using video internally and producing their own videos. And even if that means they're picking up their iPhone and shooting a video, at least people are shooting video content and trying to get more comfortable with the craft of video production. So we think that's great. But how do we create video content that's effective, right? There's a lot of bad video content out there. And for your video content to communicate with folks and to get your message across, we have to do it well. And again, to kind of give you guys a quick crash course in at least what we think are the two main key things to note when you're trying to achieve great production value, which is kind of the buzzword we use in the production world, we need two things. A quality look and feel, right? I don't want to spend any time on, professional equipment or what kind of cameras you got to use. It doesn't really matter, but I think taking the time to make a shot steady or just taking the time to, record audio a little bit cleaner than if you have the door wide open. Little things like that are going to give you a quality look and feel, and it doesn't always have to be about spending lots of dollars and going with the most high-end production equipment. But what we think is even more important is great creative brainstorming. So my goal today is to challenge you guys to think outside the box when you're thinking about video content. This is something that we pride ourselves on at ImageBrew that we're doing more and more of, and is becoming more of our model, is helping our clients think outside the box when it comes to how they position themselves with videos. And I think if you guys start to have conversations in your own organizations about how do we produce a video, what should we do? What does it look like? Typically, the first couple ideas that pop in your head or in the boss's head or whoever might not be the best, and that's okay. So I think I'm going to show you guys a couple video examples here, but I think just kind of have some fun with experimenting with what ideas you guys might be able to kind of throw up on the whiteboard or whatever before you settle on an idea. Usually, a client comes to us and says, hey, the CEO wants another video. We just want it to be quick and easy, just him talking on camera. And we say, great, but have you thought about, this or that, or doing it, in a more engaging manner? And we kind of open that door and shed some light on our ideas and try to encourage them to come up with their own. And they're always just amazed with sort of the possibilities of how you can present your message in a video by either using humor or getting people emotionally involved and telling a story, and just simple things like that. Bringing it back to John from Crocs, saying you got to keep it simple. The couple of videos I'll show you, the creative concepts are not by any means rocket science. It's just us kind of usually flipping it around and saying, well, let's consider it a different way, and what does that look like? So the first video I'm going to show you guys, we produced for a wonderful nonprofit here in Denver called Water for People. And they were putting on their first annual music concert last summer to try to get people engaged and aware of the water crisis that's happening in the world. And they're calling it the Festival for Water. And they were having it down at Civic Center Park. A couple big headliner bands they got to sign on, and wanted to get a ton of people to come out, wanted to use videos on social media. And they came to us, and again, they probably had 1,000 other marketing things they had to do, but they said, hey guys, we just want a video. Let's just do some slideshow, shots of the band with the band's music playing. Come on out Saturday at 7 o'clock. That's the video. And we said, hey guys, let's take a more commercial approach, which we can just say is like a commercial you would see on TV, where it might make you laugh, might make you smile, might make you think a little bit more about what the message is. So what we pitched to them, which one of the initial ideas we had was, hey, what if we just showed a couple scenarios, everyday life, where there's typically lots of water and we just took the water out. Everything's the same, but there's just no water. So we did a series of 3 of these videos, and I'll show you guys one here, and you'll kind of quickly see how this kind of ended up.
Marco. Polo. Marco. Polo. Marco.
Polo.
Marco.
Polo.
Marco.
Polo.
Marco. Marco. Cannonball.
So simple concept, right? And they loved it. They got some good feedback online. They shared these around Facebook, stuff like that, and you know, got friends to encourage friends to come by sharing these videos. The other 2, just to kind of shed light on those really briefly, one was a couple workers hanging out in a break room drinking coffee, and it was just coffee grains, and it was all in their teeth, and it looked kind of silly. And the third one was a woman taking a shower in the morning, getting ready with shampoo, doing the whole 9 yards, and there's no water, so we cut to a shot of her getting on the elevator. The elevator opens up and it's full of people, and she steps in and her hair is just kind of wacky because, of course, she couldn't rinse the shampoo out. So, you know, short and cute was kind of the idea there, to get people just to take a closer look at what the message was of water is important, and we take it for granted. You know, short and cute's not always the right approach, but again, you know, like I said, my goal is to just encourage you guys to see how we think when we are around the table brainstorming these ideas. And this next example I'm going to show you, we produced for a San Francisco-based tech startup, and they had an app for the iPhone. And they got the fact that they wanted to tell a story and they wanted to create an emotional connection with their audience. I won't tell you what the product is because you'll see that in the video. It explains it pretty well at the end. But they said, hey, you know, we just know we want to show that this makes your life easier. So it's great that they got that, but they didn't know how to visually show that. And we, you know, again, always have to work within the constraints of our clients' budgets, and can easily be creative and cut creative corners and make that happen. So in this instance, we only had 1 character as opposed to several characters. And we told a story about a woman traveling, and this app allows her to stay entertained while she's traveling. And we pitched them sort of a lighthearted story of her traveling home and how this app makes her life easier. So I'll show you guys this next.
Yedio makes it easy to watch every TV show and movie available on your iPhone. The most powerful way to discover new content, with advanced filtering tailored to your preferences. Effortlessly stay updated with your favorites and see what your friends are watching with a beautiful, personalized entertainment feed. Yedio. Watch everything.
So the client was thinking maybe we just showed what we showed at the end there, which would be like a demo of the app, right? Someone using it and us, maybe a narrator giving us the features, but just showing a girl traveling, taking all day to get home and on these different modes of transportation, killing time, watching different things, and basically trying to pitch them on, hey, it's okay to not have any dialogue. It could just be her reacting to the emotions you feel when you watch different types of content, because you might be feeling in different moods when you're traveling, was something that they were open to trying, and of course they were really pleased with that outcome. The last example I'll show you guys is a video we did pretty recently here for a janitorial services company. And again, we're usually pretty concerned when we know that they do something maybe as straightforward as janitorial services, and they say, hey, we want a really dynamic, awesome video. And again, that's when we go, oh man, all right, this is going to be challenging, but let's do it. And we go back to the drawing board and figure it out, but we definitely try to get what is important to them and what they respond to, because again, they're the client, and their input is definitely valid in our process. And they said, we love Apple commercials. And we said, why? And they said, well, we love the clean whites. We love how things just seem poetic almost with these Apple commercials. They're somewhat dramatic, oh yeah, we love car commercials too. Sexy car commercials, dramatic. So again, all over the board, and it's our job to rein that in. And again, I think you guys can do this as well. But we basically took a lot of those different ideas and said, well, what if we showed, instead of just showing, clean offices and showing how you guys can help companies by cleaning for them, what if we, again, flipped it around, similar to how we flipped around the water for people spots and said, what if we showed messes, right? What if we showed dramatic messes, and somehow we wrapped that around so you guys can help prevent those. So again, that was like light years ahead of what any other cleaning company was doing, right? So that really was exciting for them, because again, they were thinking along those lines and they just didn't know how to wrap their head around it. And again, fairly simple concept. This is the last slide I have here, so I'll wrap things up. Just want to touch on the future. It's important to engage and connect with your audience. Consider branded content, which is entertaining. That's kind of a newer realm where people are going with content, instead of maybe straight commercial style that cuts to the brand art card at the end, giving them some useful content. An example I use is gardening tips, and that's maybe a 5-minute long video, and it's interesting gardening tips, but it's brought to you by Miracle-Gro, right? So that would be what we consider branded content, which isn't really branded much at all, because it's entertaining and it feels like a TV show. That's, again, where we think a lot of big brands are going to start going, and they're already going there. Think about what your business needs are and how the moving image can help communicate those goals. Video is amazing because not only is it the moving image, but there's sound effects and music and narration and all these different things you can add, hence the name ImageBrew. And lastly, there are no bad ideas. Ask a lot of questions. Like I said, when you guys are pitching those ideas or brainstorming, Mark and I have done this a couple times before. It's a lot of fun. Just throw tons of ideas up on the board, cross them out. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Think of all those ideas, and you'll settle on ones that you never really would have considered if you were just kind of rushing, saying, hey, how do we get a video on the website ASAP? Just take that brief moment to pause and brainstorm. And that's all I have. Thanks for listening.
Boulder, this is kind of my world here. I've got 2 little girls that I spend a lot of time with in between Care2 and Olamomo, and just a little bit about each. Care2 started back in 1998 as one of the first social networks, actually, right after Friendster. And we've grown to be really the largest site for people that care about causes. And I've had the privilege of working for them for about 8 years on about 500 campaigns for a huge variety of causes and brands. So we just hit the 25 million member mark a couple weeks ago, and we're growing at about 1 million people a month now. Really exciting. And about 6 years ago, I moved back to Boulder from DC, where I was working with Care2, and started this wacky little net company called Olamomo. Got a couple of my crew back here, Mark and Heather, and this brand is really taking off. There's a lot of connection between what I've learned at Care2 and this brand, and I'll just share some of those tidbits tonight. But it was great to hear some of the previous speakers talk on some of the elements that'll show up here. And if you'll bear with me, you're about to see 60 slides in 15 minutes. So hang tight. So what would you do if you had 100,000 people that were following you, that were part of your tribe? What would your world look like? It's actually pretty darn possible. In fact, this client of mine, Abe's Market, which is sort of an Amazon.com for natural products, is about to recruit 100,000 people from Care2 in 2 months. That is all the result of content marketing over the last 10 years. And that's the end result that can happen. We're using a lot of these theories now as we kick off our online presence with Olamomo and how we're gonna grow our presence here. So this slide kind of makes me drool every time I see it in many ways. But look at the number there of Facebook fans they have. What's fascinating is that that number right there represents about half of their customers, half of their revenue. So there was an Ad Age article a couple years ago. Their Facebook fan base represented something like $50 million, which was half of their annual revenue. So that doesn't mean they're buying through Facebook. It's kind of hard to buy beer on Facebook. But that means that this brand has done an absolutely fantastic job of building a tribe that is connecting with them through pretty much every channel. So, how y'all doing on the internets? We're gonna do a quick quiz here. What you're gonna do is raise your hand if you agree with the following statements. I'm gonna go pretty fast, so I'm not gonna talk, you're just gonna read these. Okay, so who remembers this guy? Raise your hand. Okay, so pretty much soundtrack of my life, U2, right? Going back to growing up in the 80s. And so there's kind of a story here that ties into everything. One of the greatest brands ever right here. Survived 30 years, built a massive tribe of people. They're still growing that tribe with, the youngins these days. And then what happened was, so my personal connection, besides all the ski trips, and I grew up in Boulder, and my older brother introduced me to U2 back after they played their first show in the U.S. in Colorado. So here I am, 1997, junior year of college in St. Louis, and I go to a U2 concert with my ex-girlfriend. She'd just broken up with me. Brutal. Completely used me for the ticket, right? And you know the song One? Everybody know that song? One, not the same, got to. Okay, so that song comes on, and we end up slow dancing to that song. That was the last time I ever held her. So imagine what happens whenever I hear that song come on. So talk about winning through the heartstrings and connecting on an emotional level and weaving a brand into every part of life. That's what great brands do. So not only did that band survive and evolve in an amazing way, Bono leveraged that popularity to do some really amazing things. Love him or hate him. So here he is in 2005 on the cover of Time, one of the most important people in the world for launching this amazing campaign to end poverty, make poverty history. Here's kind of a current snapshot of that campaign now. It's called the One Campaign. They have about 3 million members. They mobilized with several other NGOs, a massive global campaign that was both online and offline around a simple concept of make poverty history. And that ended up being translated into millions of letters that were sent to decision makers, one of the biggest and earliest online successes for digital mobilization. So this is the first petition I ever signed online in 2005. And I think I donated because I got this bracelet that I still have. And I found, when I was preparing this, I found this on my mountain bike. So I've had this on my mountain bike since I moved back from DC about 6 years ago. And I still remember the cathartic experience of engaging with this global movement. because it was about me. It was about me taking action to connect with other people, a group around the world of people that cared about shit, and were actually doing something about it. So what was really fun is that came full circle when I started working with Care2 in 2006. They had about 5 million members at that point, and they'd kind of figured out early on that nonprofits were going to be able to really cut through the noise online through email, actually. Go figure. And this is before Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We were helping nonprofits grow their email lists and tens of thousands of people a month, and really helping make a difference across a huge number of organizations, including the One Campaign. So now I get to work with the One Campaign, which is kind of cool, full circle. I haven't met Bono yet. But I was preparing for this, I swear. I was down the street at the little coffee shop here, and guess what song came on? Swear to God. But it was the Johnny Cash version. It was awesome. It was like right after I looked at that slide. Okay. So this is kind of a key thing. So that's an example of, sure, none of us are Bono, none of us are U2, or we're entrepreneurs, we're marketers, but we can steal from Bono and what he's done to tap into our psychology. So and he's not the first one to talk about it. So besides Wi-Fi, which is now the new kind of basic human need for us, the secret to Care2's success and really kind of what we're building Olamomo's brand profile on, which is really kind of the first cause-conscious nut company on the planet, is talking about creating meaning for people. So Maslow talks about the 3 higher order needs. I kind of realized this early on with Care2 that we were, besides providing guilt relief, we were creating meaning for people. So it was really providing a chance for people to connect with their tribe, people that are like them, a chance to have voice, a chance to be creative and be kind of accepted, and live and connect with people that have the same values. So that maps almost directly to Maslow. So the best brands that I see now, like New Belgium, like Abe's Market, like Care2, they're doing a knockdown job of really connecting and leading with people's values. So that's a really key thing to think about. And the reason, there's some great examples. I have a ton of stories of how this actually plays out in real life beyond the clicking and the taking action on a website that has a lot of petitions and healthy living content. This guy is Quail Hodek. Anybody know him? Up in Boulder. Really great guy. I met him at a conference a few years ago. He completely lit up and he goes, "Oh my God, I joined Care2 back in the late 90s. I had no idea there were other environmental activists out there. And that really inspired me. And I ended up starting this company called Renewable Energy Choices. And they now, it's amazing, they power the carbon offsets for a ton of huge corporations like Whole Foods and Celestial Seasonings. Somewhere north of 100,000 cars is the equivalent of what they're offsetting each year. They're taking basically the equivalent of 100,000 cars off the road. So that came from connection with somebody getting lit up by connecting with his tribe and realizing he wasn't alone and that there were other people with values. Really inspired him. So brands that inspire can really connect people in a deep way that shows up in their everyday life. This is really fun. I just heard yesterday we had a new Care2 member that came in. And a Care2 member is somebody's, it's sort of like a social network, Facebook member or something like that. So somebody came in and signed 1,300 petitions. It was a combination of 1,300 petition signatures and comments in one single day. And the head of our advocacy and campaigns department went through and read all of them, or as many as he could handle. And they were like all paragraphs. It was insane. You never see anything like this. But what happened was that we resonated so deeply with this woman. And this happens every day. We have 25 million people across the world, most of them in the US. Tends to be women, average age 40, kind of your typical, Boulder archetype, my people. And they're doing great things. I mean, it's sort of this engine of goodness that's happening and inspiring people to go deeper. Another great story was when we were dropping off my 1-year-old at local daycare, a little in-home daycare. This woman, she was 29. She had had an advertising degree, but she was entrepreneurial, trying to start her own business to make ends meet. And so She was taking care of all these little, 5-year-olds for 8 hours a day. And when she learned I worked from Care 2, she, lit up. She's like, oh my God, every morning I go to Care 2 and I take 10 minutes to, click on this and sign petitions and do click to donate campaigns, because that's my connection to the world. And, for somebody who's doing all this work for all of us as parents and trying to take care of our kids, that was kind of her connection to her tribe for that little bit of her day. So the way this translates into marketing is really cool. We're now able to kind of transfer the brand that we've built and the connection we've built with our community, and then really shortcut for brands through an endorsement and through recruitment to help them grow their tribes off of our tribe, essentially. So it's really cool the way this is happening. And what we're doing is we're leading with values. So in this case, for Abe's Market, we're asking people to pledge to be more mindful of their food or their bodies, or in this case, it was pledge to go vegan. They're trying to promote a line of vegan products that they have. And what's happening in the process of people pledging in public, they're basically signing a petition or a pledge. There's also a ton of sharing happening. And this is frankly how Care 2 has grown. We've spent $0 in marketing until this last year, where we started to actually do a little bit of PR. And you can see there from the numbers on this, about 10% of the people that sign this petition, in this case 5%, but it's 5 to 10% will share on Facebook as well. So we're really resonating with people on a values level first, and then basically educating them, taking them further down the path with a particular cause or a brand or a particular idea. So when we think about activating our tribes, some really cool things start to happen when you kind of get the initial formula right. So you start with, a lot of the things mentioned, some of the previous speakers with, the foundation of your brand and the values and the culture that you set. And if you nail that right, then really cool things start to happen like this, where I was looking for images for this presentation, and I found all kinds of cool stuff that I had no idea was happening. And there was this little ski team up in Steamboat that had found our nuts, and they were psyched about them, and they posed for pictures with the nuts. So we are, early days with Olamomo, but that's already starting to happen. Our formula is starting to work. So in a few key points here to kind of boil down what I've learned over the last 8 years of doing this stuff. One, make sure that you're really paying attention to email. It's sort of the most overlooked channel, just sort of counterintuitive. And I was doing some research on this, and the reason that executives of major corporations don't pay attention to email is because of inertia. So they're spending tons of money on banner advertising and big media budgets, so that's what they pay attention to. And then they're kicking the email program to the intern. But guess what? When you look at the data, it's the opposite. Email is kind of kicking butt of most other channels. So I'm not saying don't do the other channels, but if you're spending your time and your energy and your budget on growing social media, well, guess what? It's about a third or less as effective as email in terms of ROI. This is actually e-commerce data, so this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. And the other thing that we've started to talk more about is leveraging your email to actually access social. It's the most efficient way you can do that. And I've done some really cool experiments with that, where we took a list of 10,000 email addresses that we had recruited through Care 2, mapped social media data to that, and then the nonprofit I was working with was trying to recruit offline precinct captains. So if any of you have ever been familiar with sort of political organizing, a lot of it's on the ground, kind of grassroots, face-to-face stuff. Really hard, about the hardest ask you can do. Harder than a donation, harder than a sale. And they had the highest response rate from people who had connected through a petition or a pledge, and then those people that were the most connected on social media converted the most to be the offline precinct captains. So they were able to identify behavior of people through the social media data and say, okay, they were able to drill down and say, okay, these people are already on Facebook, they have clout scores that are really high, so the chances of that particular targeting are going to yield a lot higher result than just a broad broadcast to your entire list, where half of them might not even be on Facebook. So that goes to what Chuck was talking about, targeting and segmenting. That's a really cool way, a really cheap way you can do it. But you kind of have to have a critical mass of an email list to do that, to have it make sense. And then going direct on your data. Anybody remember MySpace? When I started at Care2, it was the hot thing, and overnight it was gone. And all those brands that had invested, millions of dollars in creating a MySpace strategy, gone. And interestingly, I've seen a lot of companies that have based gambled their entire life on a third-party platform like this disappear overnight. Products that I've launched have disappeared overnight. So the latest is that Facebook has shifted their policies where, all that money that New Belgium spent on recruiting 500,000 people, well, guess what? They can organically only reach 6% of them now because Facebook decided to change their algorithms. So own your data. That's the long-term strategy. 3, guess what? Going back to Chuck's party tips, don't talk about yourself. You're not the hero. Your brand is not the hero. You're the mentor. You're the guide. This is from a book called Winning the Story Wars. This is the Bible for storytelling and brands, if you ask me. These are some of the common archetypes that mentors take on. Think Yoda in Star Wars or Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are the people that kind of send their heroes on a journey. This is what we're building Olamomo's brand around, actually, where we have this kind of monkey character who's the mentor guide, and we're inspiring our customers to be good, be nutty, be adventurous. So we have that then show up in many interesting ways. So in a storytelling format, thinking as the guide, this is a list that I stumbled onto somehow, and they got me. And because of this right here, the life you're meant to live. So it resonates with me, kind of a has-been, 30-something guy who used to be athletic and is like craving for adventure, and they got me. So they do these great little stories where it's, creating this imagery and these images of a life of, adventure and travel and luxury. It's great. So storytelling, think about, who your personas are and know thy tribe. Prana does an amazing job of this. They've completely dialed into who their core customer is. Again, it's probably the Boulder archetype. And this is what we've done at Care2 as well in terms of actually developing personas a few years ago. We figured out that we were attracting more women than men. Women tend to be nicer, I guess. And so it's average age 40, so 25 to basically 60-year-olds that have pets. There's a few cat ladies in here. They like to sign petitions. They like to write letters to the editor. They vote. They donate. They're the good people. And I was trying to read this in backwards on the window back there. And this is a really important tip that we're really trying to exercise. And Prana, again, does an awesome job of this. They really focus in on their core customer. So if you look at their website, they actually have their personas are actually real elite athletes. And these elite athletes are who we all want to be. So they kind of reflect back on us. This is sort of the example of what we're aspiring to. They do a really good job of creating kind of a hero feedback loop with these people. So you can go in and drill down on all these profiles and find some amazing content and tips and philosophies and inspiring life stories. Really cool, lots of video. So they really focus in, they really go deep, and that kind of deep connection, led to a very massive exit recently. So this is kind of the same thing we've done with Olamomo, but we focus really geographically. So this is another way to think about it. So we started out in Boulder, 3 or 4 years at farmers markets, really getting to know kind of our core customer, which is that natural products consumer, that Boulder consumer. Really honed in on what products were working, what was selling best, packaging. We had an amazing live test environment, and then the result of that focus led to raising a bunch of money last year, hiring a CEO, Mark back there, building a team around him. And a year ago, we had 0 distribution essentially nationally, and now this is where we were about a month ago. 150 grocery stores and about 400 coffee shops. So focus, go deep to go big, and just a note of that, we're really focusing now where these clusters have developed, like in the Northeast and we're trying to dominate and really, saturate those areas with the brand before we spread ourselves too thin across the entire country. So go deep to go big. And then the other thing we're doing at Olamomo, and this is also a great practice for any size company, is develop a culture of content curation across the entire team. This is something I did at Care2 back in 2006 when I launched one of the first nonprofit marketing blogs called frogloop.com. It's kind of a focus on, it's a B2B blog that's focused on best practices for marketing for causes and nonprofits and cause-oriented brands. And the idea is that you get buy-in from the entire team and you distribute the work. And this makes things a lot more efficient. There's no bottleneck with one person having to come up with all the content. It reflects the whole culture of the whole team a lot better. It's really cool. So we launched this at Care2, or at Olamomo. Too many hats that I wear, I get them all mixed up. And so what we do is we have, everybody's responsible for a bit of content each week. And we collect it on Evernote, which is this great sort of content sharing tool. And then we have a curator who's sitting here in the room right now, who will go through and actually then choose the best place for that. So we, daily posts on Twitter and Facebook, and then more meaty posts that go on a blog, or sometimes we'll do recipes on Pinterest. So we kind of choose the content for the right channel, and all of it's designed to be shareable. And we're focusing on really our core brand themes, which is, be nutty, be good, be adventurous. We're trying to inspire people through the brand and through the stories, and highlighting not ourselves, but all the other cool stuff that we come across and all the educational content. And at Care2, we do this with daily action alerts that drive people to take action. And this is how a lot of our business operates, where we're driving people to take action on causes that are sponsored by other brands or nonprofits. And then also through healthy living content and a variety of other newsletters where it's a lot of shareable, bite-size, helpful information. I liked this one. It was how to tell if your wine habit's healthy. Turned out I'm doing pretty well. And then, with Abe's Market, another great example, they have a mix of kind of, their e-commerce, so they have a mix of bite-sized, chewable content that's really helpful and informational and educational, but it's also kind of tied into their e-commerce sales. So they're killing it. And then Gaiam, similarly, they have they've done some list growth recruitment with us, and then they're translating that into e-commerce sales through content marketing. And this is probably the most important point. Can anybody name that band, by the way? I've been trying this for years. Nobody's nailed it. I don't actually know. So that's it. Ask for help. There's a lot of great, smart people in here. Thanks for all the presentations. And I was actually a CU Denver grad. Yeah, thank you.